We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Taste with you, well, you've gone sour. You want the world plus everything, but it won't work an hour. And now your questions are guilt creeping, and you're going buying flowers. You throw away the dreams we had, boy. I won't allow it. I said we're gonna fall out. Let's see you get out. I think we're gonna fall out. So shut your mouth.
Good evening. Welcome to NUFC Matters, the professionals, with me, Steve. It's me, Steve, Mitch, and Stu. Good evening, lads.
Evening, Steve. How are you?
All right. Yes. Still functioning after that game yesterday, and then the news that we've received today about Jamal Lascelles being ruled out for the same length of time as Botman. But let's talk about the game first. Plenty of questions coming in as well, which I'm sure we'll do our best to get to. Mitch, 4-3 for 70 minutes. That was hard work. The last 20 minutes was euphoric at St James's Park as Newcastle went from 3-1 down to win 4-3. I've been to many of those games. I'm at St James's Park. I can think of the Aston Villa game with Shearer's hat trick. I can think of Roy Aitken's debut, the 5-4. Leeds away. With Nobby Solano getting the winner. I wasn't lucky enough to be at the Champions League game when Craig Bellamy got the winner, but I know many who were. We've had a few of them. They're not good for the heart, Mitch.
No, but if you want a video essay to sum Newcastle United up, that 90 minutes of football would be a video essay, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
We can get dragged down to the depths of despair and then put on the highest heights of euphoria within 20 minutes. Similar to the 4-3 we had against Leicester once when Shearer got a hat-trick. And ironically, the goals were all scored in the same minutes. I mean, this is just bonkers. It's absolutely crackers. Only we can do that kind of thing. And I genuinely mean that. I think Bruno summed it up in his I think it was an Instagram post after the game. You know, when the crowd and the team are together, when everybody's together in harmony, we can make the impossible possible. The minute that second penalty went in, everybody watching in Dubai looked at each other and went, "Yeah, West Ham are done here." You could feel it, you could see it. It was like a building tsunami. It was coming, and there was nothing they could do about it. That's the amazing thing about when we are all in synergy. We can do things like that, but so frustrating. The first 70 minutes were proper dross, to be honest with you. At times, everything that's gone wrong with last season, you could see within that 70 minutes. And then if you add the Lascelles injury on top, you've had everything that's gone wrong with that season in 90 minutes. And so we revel in it. It shows. There's something in that team, there's something in that dressing room that's still very much alive. And I think that's something some of us have been questioning of late, is what is genuinely the atmosphere behind the scenes? What is going on behind the scenes? The one thing for sure is the way everybody to a man and woman celebrated when that goal went in. There's not a lot wrong behind the scenes at the moment. Everybody seems to be on the same page, and by God, did we show that in those last 20 minutes.
Stu, it's enough to turn a man to drink, that.
Yeah, well, I thought it was pretty mundane affair, wasn't it? We'll take the 70-minute marker because then we'd been talking about 10 cup finals and it was just another cup final lost, wasn't it? Then you see what happens. For me, the standout, even when in the first half, even in the first 15, 20 minutes of the second half when we were getting beat, what stood out for me was Bruno. He was so disciplined. His best friend was trying his utmost to get him booked. And he really was. And he never bit, he never fell for any of the gamesmanship, I suppose you could call it. He did anything. And it was a game we simply had to win. But it was anything but simple, wasn't it? And that's just typical Newcastle. And to me, it was fit enough a performance that, I suppose, if you're looking at Easter weekend, where we come back from the dead, didn't we? And we were down and out 3-1, and you just thought, that's the season finished. You know, if we lost that game yesterday, then to me, we wouldn't have got into Europe. We couldn't have. There was too big a mountain to climb. The confidence would have been shot to bits. But it made a big difference. And even in the first half, when we had chances and most of the ball, what was lacking was the legs around Bruno. And I'm not talking about Paquetas. I'm talking about the Longstaffs, the Willock. They were both off the pace. And then all of a sudden, Elliot Anderson comes on, and you could see Bruno decides, right, this is a game I can win. And we've seen him do it so many times, especially at home. I'm going to carry this team. And he went for it. And he was demanding the ball under any amount of pressure. He would take it, he'd release it, you'd get it back again. And the most important thing for me was, as Mitch just mentioned there, was the camaraderie, the willingness between the team. They're obviously a unit together. Like they're very much united behind the scenes. And the fans who were quiet in the first half got behind them and acknowledged the fact that they were making an effort. And it was one of those where the game could have slipped away, but we thought, you know what, these aren't that good. We can do these. And quite rightly, as soon as the second goal went in, there was only going to be one winner. And we've got no problem scoring goals. The stats will tell you that. Where we do have the problem is conceding them. And the one thing for me, if we're talking about later on about getting into Europe, is Isaac. We need someone like, well, we don't need someone like him, we've got him. We need someone with Isaac's ability, the way he exudes confidence and the belief in his own ability. And without him, we won't get Europe. If we keep him fit, I've got no doubt in my mind that we will get European football, and as long as he stays fit. And he played the full game after 2 games for Sweden, 112, 113 minutes, was it? Nearly 2 hours of football. And he was still laying off passes and everything else. And that shows you how the team were together yesterday. And they got carried on like a tide of euphoria, a tide of emotion. And I just hope it hasn't drained them for Tuesday's game. But when it comes to Tuesday, it might just be put your hand up if you can run, and then you've got a place in the team. What changed the game for us yesterday was our bench. And what's cost us so much over the last few months has been the lack of depth on our bench. So that's the worry for Tuesday, but let's celebrate yesterday's victory. It was one of those. It was up there with the Leicester 4-3 that Mitch mentioned there when Shearer got his hat-trick. For me, it was up there with the 4s each when Teodo's got the winner. Sorry, the equaliser at the end. Never say never. And it's just one of those that people will talk about in 10, 15, 20 years' time. And sadly, I wasn't there, but all those who were can say I was at that game. And that's the effect that team can have on the city and beyond. And it's amazing how whenever everything comes together, how simply beautiful it is. And yesterday was beautiful.
Was the Manchester City Arsenal game has finished 0-0. A good day for Liverpool with that result, but pretty stale game, I've got to be honest. We haven't watched that. Not one for the purists, that's for certain. The injuries, the talking point, Mitch, Jamal Lascelles. You know what? That guy, you and Stu in particular have championed Lascelles. I wobbled on him a little bit, I've got to be honest, at the start of the season. I genuinely thought that we'll probably see the last of him. But when he's come in, he hasn't let us down, to the point yesterday where he's done his ACL. He's lying on the ground telling the medical staff and the St. John's ambulance not to bother. Leave everything. I'll just walk off. In fact, he decided to try and play on. Probably not the brightest of ideas, with hindsight, but that just sums him up. Lascelles, he's been there when we needed him, and if that is his last appearance for Newcastle United, then it's a remember. Well, we'll always remember him, but it's quite a way to go out at St James's Park. But I'd genuinely be surprised if in 9 months' time he is still playing for Newcastle. But who knows? But sad to see him get injured.
Very much so. People saying they should have diagnosed it straight away. It's not always that easy to diagnose an ACL straight away. That's why Botman was able to play on for a couple of games. You feel the initial pain, yes, but that can also be the same as other much lesser injuries that you can then play on through. Some players are able to sort of, I hate to use the phrase, man up a little bit and get on with it, and he's that type. He's shown this season when he's come in, particularly when he came in against PSG, and everybody was wetting their knickers about what Mbappe might do, and he more than stood up. We hammered them 4-1 on the night. You cannot ask for more than that. He's been a leader in many, many ways, on and off the pitch. He's been humble. He's understood when it's time to make his mouth go has been right, and when it's time to step back has been right. But equally, the other players in the squad have respected that. If you look at the amount of times Trippier's handed him the armband when he's come on as a sub, that's because everybody knows who the captain is. If it is his last game, he goes with grace and favour, and I think nothing but thanks, because he stuck with through relegation twice. My understanding is he's taken pay cuts in the past to stay at Newcastle United because he wanted to. And so, I think you have to look at all of these different things and say, thank you very much. If it is his last game, it is, but it might not be. Let's see where we're at once he recovers. One thing for sure, you'll get the full support from the club, the way Matty Longstaff did, that when he comes to the end of his rehab from his injury, if the decision is made that we're going to let him go on his merry way, he'll be helped to go on his way. I'm quite sure of that. But you can't fault what he's done. It was one of those, you could see the way he pulled up and held his knee, that you thought, oh, yeah, he doesn't do that easily. He doesn't stay down easily. And it was sort of a little bit reassuring when he got up, but it was immediately obvious the way he came back on that he was struggling, and he knew he was struggling. And I think anybody who's had an ACL injury would tell you that the pain sometimes isn't always that long-lasting or severe, but what you feel very quickly is the instability. That something just doesn't feel right. And at least he's been honest enough after 5 minutes of saying, right, okay, the pain I can live with, but what's going on with my knee is a different thing. And so I think you have to respect that for him, that he's had a go, because he obviously knows what the situation is. And I think it does make us wonder in terms of some of the decisions made about Botman not wanting surgery and wanting to play on. It's almost the mentality's a fault, that they want to help the squad, they want to play for their manager, they want to play for the team. So I think we're forced into some decisions now about what we're going to do line-up-wise. Thankfully, we've got players back who can cover certain positions. It's not ideal, but going into the last few games of the season, I'm quite sure we'll be able to put the back four or a back five or whatever they want to do together. And I think with some of the other substitutions and the way some of the other people who came on in the end have played, I think the manager, if nobody else, should be reassured that no matter which team he puts out, he's got people who are going to be square pegs and square holes, and they're going to give it their best.
Yeah, the injury to Lascelles, Stu, wasn't the only injury, of course. I mean, we had a game full of them, didn't we?
Yeah, it was one of those where when we were getting beat, I thought today, I was thinking about doing this podcast, thinking, do you know what? We don't really want to talk about the result. And I was going to ask you, can we talk about England again? That's how desperate it got at one stage. But with the injuries, Lascelles is, I'll probably get wrong for saying this on today, but he's a man's man and he wants to lead by example. And he's one of those that, no, that didn't hurt. Even he waved the stretcher off and everything. No, I'll get on and I'll try my best. But where we've been light for the last few months has been midfield. That's probably now our strongest department. And it just shows you like apart from Sunderland, we must have kicked a few black cats over the last few months, because there's like one step forward, two step back. But I don't go with this that Lascelles is playing his last game for us, because if he's out for between 6 and 9 months, that takes him past the summer transfer window. So he's going to be our player by the time he's recovered anyway. And we all know he's a leader within the group. We know that he's well respected by all the players. So, and he's extended his contract for a year. Why wouldn't he stay until the end of next season? And hopefully he gets a chance to pick up a European trophy for us, because that would be a nice swan song for him. You know, get yourself fully fit. It's quite clear we're going to have to sign at least one centre-half now in the summer. But he's for me, I know that myself and Mitch have spoken highly of him, defended him against some bad publicity, shall we say. But I don't think he's done anything wrong for the last 18 months, playing-wise. And he's accepted that he's not going to be, when everyone's fully fit, he's not going to be in the starting 11. But that doesn't mean he can't lead them. And it takes a certain type of person to still be able to lead, when you could have in the back of your mind, these people are looking at me and I'm not even on the pitch. But he's obviously earned their respect. And for me, he's definitely worth keeping. Even if they don't have him in the squad until the new list gets done in January of next year and free up that place, he'll still be with us come the end of next season. And if it means give him a free transfer, or he goes away, or he plays his way back in and gets an extension, it doesn't matter. But he can't get sold in the summer. No one's going to buy someone who was under injury, are they? So he'll definitely be with us come the start of next season, unless you two know something I don't.
It's just one of those situations that is developing at the club. You know, he's getting older. It's another 9 months out. He's got to come back. You know, there's no guarantee him or Botman are going to come back the same player. So for me, I'd like to think we are going to move on at some point. But let's go back to the substitutions, Mitch. I was pleased to hear Eddie Howe come out and say, hold his hands up. Because he got that first substitution wrong. When that injury happened to Lascelles, to move Livramento from right back to left back and bring Kraft on at right back, I think was wrong. And he admitted it was wrong at the end of the game. And it completely unsettled us, because we'd also moved Byrne, who at the time I was actually having a decent game on left back, I felt, into centre half. I just think he could have made it a lot simpler on himself. I've got to be honest, I do think Eddie got out of jail yesterday because of the injuries. And that sounds weird to say that, but I think that the injuries dictated what he did. And I do feel he got away with it a little bit yesterday. I think West Ham could have gone on to win that game had it not fallen in that way. It didn't happen like that. Newcastle found the momentum. Harvey Barnes and Lewis Hall, for me, changed the game. But I think you can count yourself a little bit lucky on that one, Eddie. And fair play to him, he did come out and admit that he got that wrong.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. I did wonder when he brought Kraft on to move Livramento across. It felt like sort of too many changes in one, and it would have been easier to leave everything alone and just go like for like a little bit and move Byrne across. But we can all say that with hindsight. I just hope on the back of it all that Livermore was okay, but because I don't know if you saw the slow-mo of it, but by God, he went right over on his ankle. That looked sore, to say the least. But do you know what? Fate sometimes is a strange mistress, isn't it? It's one of these ones. It's created a situation where we've had to make the right substitutions in the end. So we can bemoan luck and bad luck, but maybe that was a little bit of good luck. So we can all sit back and make championship manager decisions in hindsight and sound really, really clever. He's the manager. He accepts that his decisions will either keep his job or cost him his job because it's a results-based business, and everybody knows that. And so I don't think we can be... Oh, yes, we can be critical. We can say, look, that looked wrong. And even he said, yeah, okay, I got that wrong. Fair dues. Takes a big man to say when you're wrong. It's easy to take the plaudits when you're right all the time. So, you know, we've got lucky out of adversity. Happy days. You'd say the same about Almiron. You know, on, off. And there's the match winner, Barnes. 1-2, thank you very much. So we can talk about it all day long. We've got lucky in terms of it. Eventually, the right players at the right time were on the pitch in the right position. And what we need to do, though, is learn from that, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, Stu. I mean, it was good. He held his hands up and said he got it wrong. And I'm pleased he did that. I really am. If he'd come out at the end and took credit, I think then I would have been a little bit miffed. But he did get that wrong yesterday.
He got it wrong afterwards, but at the time he made a decision of because we were 1-0 up, he wanted to bring his most solid defender on in Kraft. If you look at the bench, was probably his most solid defender. Where he made it wrong was you're changing 4 people. You know, Kraft comes on, Livramento goes to left back, Byrne goes to left centre half, Shaw goes to right centre half. You know, everyone got shuffled along, and then you've got to adjust. It cost us at least the first goal. That adjustment where quite clearly, if Hall had come on, it would have just been boom. It would have been 2 changes, not 4. But the truth of it is, anyhow, week after week has been dealt really bad hands, and we've been kicked in the teeth. If you look at the PSG away, is the best example. How many times have we been hurt at the end? And I think he rode his luck yesterday, but he deserved that bit of luck. And fair play to him. And you're right at the end. He said, you could see when Harvey Barnes scored the last goal, you could see the palpable relief. He got booked for the first time in his managerial career. You know, that tells you how much it meant to him. That tells you he knew he got out of jail, and it was great to watch him celebrate the way he did. You know, with the emotion. Because the whole stadium erupted, didn't it? I mean, we could see it through the TV. You were there, Steve. You could sense it. It was like, as I mentioned before, I was there moment. And it was just to watch it was amazing. Everyone got caught up with the euphoria of it all. And the fact that Mr. Cool, Calm and Collected Eddie Howe got caught up and took a yellow card. You'll take a yellow card every week if it means we score the winner in the last few minutes. Because that's realistically what we've got coming over the next few weeks. And sometimes strength comes from adversity, and the way they battled as a team collectively to get over the line, whether it was fortuitous or not, they had the belief that they could do it, the togetherness they could do it. I think it'll stand them in good stead for what's to come. And as Mitch has just said there, the team might just about pick itself, but then we'll have people in the right positions. You know, you don't want to see anyone injured ever, but it's part and parcel of the game. And by God, we've had our fair share of injuries this season. You know, but if you look at last season, when we rode a crest of a wave, we were very lucky with injuries. So you've got to take the rough with the smooth. But what they didn't do yesterday is let the heads drop. Collectively, it was as if they thought, you know what, we need to get something from this game. This is our season right here. This next 20, 30, 35 minutes, whatever, is our season. And they give it their all. So hopefully they're going to get a nice day, or they've had a nice day off today. They'll have a light training session tomorrow. and they'll blow everything out the water on Tuesday. And then you've got 2 wins in a row, you've got momentum, and then it's on to Fulham on Saturday.
I've seen a lot of people on social media today, pointing at the Bournemouth injury situation. The team that have the most injuries in the Premier League was Bournemouth. Newcastle's now surpassed that after yesterday's fixture. Is it a coincidence, Mitch, do you think? Or is it, is it a bit deeper than that? Because I've seen people, retweeting the headlines as well about, Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe is going to have a, big look at this in the summer. This was when he was at Bournemouth, about the injuries that have happened. Or is it a complete fluke? Because, I was trying to go through them yesterday with Steve Hasty and John after the match. And we're talking about the various injuries that Newcastle had sustained. And I think Ben Holloway is in the chat. I think he was involved in this as well. We're talking about it. And, a lot of them are just freak injuries, but then people are saying, yeah, but that's down to overtraining. But it's not, falling on your back and breaking your back like Dan, or breaking part of your back like Dan Burn did is a freak. Harvey Barnes' injury, was a freak. ACL for Lascelles yesterday. It's happened in game time, but people then saying, no, well, it's definitely the training. You got to point back to Bournemouth. Is it just a coincidence?
3 dislocated shoulders, stress fracture of the back. You could go on and on and on. I wish I knew there was a way we could take the data sets and see if there was a correlation. I get when people say the common denominator is Eddie Howe's manager, but they also all play on grass. They all play 90 minutes of football in the same amount of games in the Premier League. There's other common denominators. I think we have been subjected this season to something, and I've said this before, we will never see again. If you total the amount of minutes we've lost from players through injury, plus Tonali's suspension, plus other suspensions, the number's phenomenal. I don't think it's ever been touched or ever will be touched again. No. And so, can we load that all on Eddie Howe? I don't think so. Can we load it on the medical team? There might be some things we could, but not everything. Some of these things, there's absolutely no way anybody could have had much of an influence over. Dislocated shoulders in particular, for one. Maybe Murphy's second. Maybe they let him come back too quick. Maybe. But the minute he revealed what really the situation with Botman was, that gets my mind thinking, okay, the medical team maybe have been a bit of a buffer to certain things and they've allowed that to happen without chucking a player under the bus, for example. I think it's very difficult to weigh it up. I do think, and I stand by this, we need a root and branch review of what goes on with our medical team and what goes on with everybody behind the scenes to just make sure there's not something we've missed that could be contributing to this. If you look at Elliot Anderson's situation with his back, what they seem to be suggesting is he overtrained over this close season when he's still growing and he's put more stress on his back. Well, he looks like a bloody man mountain at the minute. I thought he was phenomenal when he come on yesterday. He's far more than the young man that came back from Bristol Rovers. The fracture that Byrne suffered, again, fluke. We've got this situation with Willock, but what was the injury? It was a hamstring, then it was a calf, and then it was something else. So there was something going on there that maybe they haven't made public, be that because medical reasons and confidentiality. Maybe it's because it was a very difficult one to diagnose and they got it wrong and they don't want to say they got it wrong. I don't know. But there's things in there that I do think would warrant the medical team taking a step back over the summer and saying, right, how would be better? But I would say everybody at the club over the summer will be taking a step back saying, how can we be better? Because it's been a hell of a ride this season. And we've probably, with the disappointment post-Christmas and the frustration post-Christmas. Lost some of the highlights out of the season because we had this odd 3-week period where everything seemed to fall apart. And we could still end the season on a high going forward. And this could be the catalyst to let us do that. But then in the summer, everybody in every part of the club needs to step back and say, how can we be better? Because there's lots of things we could be better at. I'm quite sure of that. And I'm quite sure the medical team, if they were honest with everybody and themselves, will look at things where they say, you know what, maybe he's got that wrong and maybe he could have done better with that. But I think, isn't that all of us? And professionally, shouldn't we always all be looking back at what we're doing and saying, well, how can we be better? And so that's what I would be looking to take out of this season now. It's astonishing to lose another player with an ACL yet again. That forces the hand in terms of substitutions. That puts people in the right place at the right time. I've seen a lot of talk within football, medical and sports medical talk about, particularly if you look again, I use American football as a yardstick. They're looking at the types of injuries you get between playing on an artificial turf, on a mixed turf or a natural turf, and whether you train on an artificial turf or a mixed turf or a natural turf, and what that does and what kind of injuries that may bring more commonly or not. Again, that's something we need to look at, I think, is playing surfaces, training surfaces, where we're going to play pre-season, where we're going to play post-season, and all those kind of things. I think with the games that we've got left, I think the manager and the club will be looking at opportunities, not threats. Where can we develop young players? Young Alex Murphy now has a chance to come into the squad and be involved at the higher level. So I think there's lots of things we can analyse and there's lots of things we can look at. Because the human mind loves patterns and loves organisation, you look at the Bournemouth situation and you look at the Newcastle situation and say, all right, Eddie Howe. Because we love patterns like that. But actually, one of the natural features of a true random system is patterns. Because that's our brain. I think it's far more complicated than that. I don't think there's an easy answer. But I'm sure as a club and as individuals, we can all learn and grow out of that.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people talking about boot stew. I think Steve Hasty highlighted it on Twitter. That Lascelles only had four studs in his boots, and Mitch is aligned to it there as well, hasn't he? About footwear and stuff like that. I guess there's all different reasons why these kind of injuries happen.
Yeah, but other teams wear boots as well, so it's not just a Newcastle problem with the boots. But I think in general, football-wise, it's to what we used to wear, the flimsy on there. And it's all about gaining an advantage, but not if it doesn't protect. The whole idea of wearing footwear is to protect your feet, isn't it? And it's quite clear these boots aren't doing it. But it's sometimes you've just got to accept now. Regarding certain injuries, I've had it on, shall we say, from a reliable source. Regarding Botman, he was told by 3 specialists at the Nuffield, don't play. When he first got it done, do not play. It'll only get worse. It'll make it, etc. But we aren't privy to what goes on behind the scenes on the training ground. When Botman got injured, there's been a spate of injuries, and you can imagine, irrespective of the comp persona that Eddie Howe puts out, you can sense him pulling his hair out with frustration, like one thing after another. And sometimes in work, you try to appease your boss, even if you know you're not doing the right thing. And it's trying to diffuse situations. Because I said, look, I'm not suggesting this has happened. It's just my taking it. There's a chance if we rest him for a little bit, he could, and I stress could, play quicker than if we pack him off now. And that sounds controversial to the point I'm saying someone's been negligent, but what I'm trying to say is these things happen in any walk of life. It's not just a Newcastle problem. So the boots is a greater issue. And I know Steve Hastie's very much of an advocate of this is what's causing a lot of problems in the women's game, because the women aren't wearing boots specially designed for women. They're wearing men's boots, and the bodies are different. But you know what? We're in a situation where sometimes you've just got to roll your sleeves up or suck it and see. We've been dealt really, really, really a bad hand, but it is what it is. And yesterday we got 3 points, and that's what we should be celebrating. Whether Livramento, how serious is it? I don't know. Miggy, how serious was it? I mean, maybe he just strained it trying to kick the ball with his right foot. You don't know. We can make light of every injury. But what we have to do now is those who are playing, get behind them and say, right, these are the 11 that are going to represent us. And no doubt come Tuesday, someone else will get injured, and it's just the way this season's been. But if we can get through it, we'll get through these 9 games. And I wrote them down because I thought we were going to talk about it on Wednesday. If you look at who are people that were in our little group, the West Ham, Wolves, Brighton, Chelsea, I ruled Man United out because at the time they were too many points ahead of us, and they've played a lot of the teams around us. This European football log is in our own hands, and what we can't have is despondency. What we should be doing is celebrating a win and saying, right, now we look at where Everton are in the league. We owe them for that 4-1 that they give us. We owe them. Never mind Pickford and everything else. We owe them. The league table tells you we're better than them. And what we need to do is something we haven't done is put 3-4 wins together. And all of a sudden, the world's better and the injuries become less important. They're only important now is because we are where we believe we shouldn't be. Other teams have injuries, and yes, we've had more injuries than anyone else, and we've won the world record of Premier League injuries. Thank God, aren't we brilliant? But it doesn't matter, because in 10 years' time, if they say, oh, Bruno left in the summer, Isak left in the summer, oh, that's because we had injuries. No, it's because we didn't get European football, and these guys have got aspirations, but you can't fault their commitment. Every player who plays for us has commitment. And what we need to do is really, really get behind them. So what I did, I took the liberty of writing just a couple of things. I'll be as quick as I can. West Ham have still got to play Tottenham. They've got to play Wolves. And Wolves and West Ham can't beat each other. They've got to play Liverpool. They've got to beat Chelsea. They've got to beat They've got to play Man City. We're 1 point behind them with a game in hand. So if we can't, with our fixture list, get above West Ham, we don't deserve European football. So that moves us on to Wolves, who got beat yesterday. We're above Wolves now. They've got to play West Ham. As I said, they can't beat each other. They've got to play Arsenal, Man City and Liverpool. Can you see them getting any points of them? Those 3. So that puts us above them if we do what we should do. Brighton, bless them. They've got beat up Liverpool today. They've got Arsenal, Man City, Villa, then us, and Man United still to play. And then Chelsea, who were the dark horses, you don't know what you're getting with them, do you? But they've still got Man United to play, they've got Arsenal to play, they've got Villa to play, and they've got West Ham to play. This is in our own hands. And sometimes if you start thinking bad things will happen, they happen. But if we start thinking positive things will happen, they happen. And that's what last season did to us. We got the positioning, and even when the World Cup happened, we were sitting in third and thinking, can this still last? And we started to believe. The first game back, we trounced Leicester away 3-0 and thought, this is on. We hit a sticky patch. We stuck together. The players, the management team, the owners, the fans, we all stuck together. And that belief carried us over the line. And we need the same again. Things haven't went our way this season, but we need the same again. And we can and we should get European football. I genuinely believe it. And Man United has still got to play Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, and us. So theoretically, we could still catch them as well. Let's just say, yes, we've had injuries, but we've got players. The sub showed yesterday. Hall, let's not weigh his shoulders down with expectation like he did with Miley. But what a starter he proved to be. So let's say he's capable of starting. Everyone's cried to get a new left back all season. So we've got one better than what we had, apparently. So that's a positive, is it not? We've got Harvey Barnes. We've got someone who can score with either foot from outside the box. It's a different attacking threat, which means Gordon can go on the right once he returns from his suspension. Then you've got Barnes, Isaac, and Gordon running at you. Not many defences we've got to play. I'll fancy that. Then you've got a rejuvenated Bruno who's played about 60 games already this season. Just put some legs around him. People who can do the running for him. Give him the ball. Let him use his vision. Spray it about. We're going to be fine. The defence is the weakness now when we had too many defenders. But if we have, feasibly, we could be starting with Kraft and Dummett as our centre-halves on Tuesday. But with it being Easter, it'll be a Lazarus-like resurrection from Shaw. He'll be fit. And Byrne will play left-back. And I've got a feeling that Trippier will be fit. I think he just was a bit under the weather yesterday. So we could have Trippier right back. We could have Shaw left back. Livermento's not going to be out for ages. Things are a lot better than what we make them out to be. And we can finish this season with a proper rattle and get 7th, even 6th. Why not? Finish above Man United, possibly 5th. Let's go for it. Because when we stick together, we're better than any other club in that league by a long shot. So that was my little rant.
There you are. People tune in on a Sunday for positivity. Stu's giving you it in abundance. We'll have a quick ad break. We'll be back after this. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. Go to their website, skipsandbins.com. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com or telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Go to their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to United Group Travel. Go to their website, unitedgrouptravel.com. Email info@unitedgrouptravel.com or phone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. They're a local company from Morpeth and there are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. Big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, hit the subscribe button under the video. Click the thumb up to like the video and click share to share to your social media. If you want to help the channel financially, you can pay a one-off £25 fee. You get a cup, a scarf, a pen and a membership card and entry into the NUFC Matters monthly draw. Email john@nufcmatters.com for more details, or if you've got a smartphone, scan the QR code now and it takes you straight to the membership pack. We also support the food bank on this channel. Go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and you'll find the matchday bucket. You can make a donation virtually today. You can also find us on iTunes, Spotify and other podcast providers. We also do events during the year. NUFC Matters Live will be at the O2 City Hall on Friday the 2nd of August for an evening with Rob Lee, one night in Antwerp. Tickets start at £15 and you can get them from ticketmaster.co.uk. An evening with the entertainers takes place on Friday the 24th of January 2025 at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House in Newcastle. Telephone 0844 249 1000 or visit the website tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk to buy tickets today. You can also catch me on the North East Footy Breakfast Show live on Toon Radio weekdays 7 till 9 a.m. on DAB, smart speakers and the toonuk.com. Okay, don't forget as well the NUFC Matters end of season party, 20th of July. Tickets on sale from newcastlelegends.com or nufcmatters.com. The Long Sands will be playing an acoustic set. Gibbo and Supermac doing a live talk and Ask George will take place as well. A couple of other things happening. It's 5 o'clock till late. We're advising everybody to get there for 5 if possible. Tickets are a tenner. All proceeds go to Dementia Matters. And the Peter Beardsley tickets for the 2nd of June, are on sale for £19 and you can get them on voucher. No live fans forum tomorrow. We're going to play this tomorrow night, 6 o'clock and then 7:15, parts 1 and part 2 of an evening with Nobby Solano, which took place at the Irish Centre in January this year. So if you weren't there, sit back on Bank Holiday Monday and have an enjoyable evening watching Nobby Solano and John Gibson talk a little bit about Nobby's career and talk about Newcastle United season so far. Well worth a watch. Great night that was, and that is free on the channel tomorrow night. Okay, we're going to get to your questions now. Quite a few coming in from everybody now. And Geordie Boy, obviously just getting back to the centre-half situation. He says, question about the lads. Before the injuries to Botman and Lascelles, we were talking about buying a new centre-half as an understudy to Shaw. Does that mean we need to sign 2 new centre-halves this summer, Mitch?
Good question. I think let's see how young Alex Murphy develops. That might say if we're having to make a signing. Also, let's see how the rehab for both of those players goes. 6 to 9 months is a massive window. It's huge. So you don't want to rush anybody back. But there's a 3-month variance in the return. Some people return quicker, some slower. I don't think it'll change the plans too much because at least one, and then knowing one's back soon would probably be enough. It's super frustrating because it just feels like everything's just been bollocks by injuries this season, from planning ahead to going through in cup competitions to everything else, you know. And I know it's an easy fallback, but it gets to the point where that's part of the reality. Absolutely part of the reality. But certainly, I don't think it'll change the fact that we definitely need to sign at least one centre-back going into this the close season. And bearing in mind Shaw's ability to play left or right does give her a little bit extra room to wiggle.
Stu, do we need more than one centre-half in this next window?
Minimum of one, isn't it? Do we want to go into the season where one injury is going to scupper or highlight the defensive frailties again, but then you've got the other side of the coin, whereas given a couple of months and we'll be too top heavy in that area as well. So thankfully it's not our decision, but it's quite clear. Shaw, to me, has been outstanding all season. I think you can count on one hand how many bad games he's had. But Father Time will catch up with him, and next season could be his last big season for us. And if he's going to be the main one in centre half, unless we sign someone, a top quality centre half, then that to me gives us cause for concern. So this is where I think we should be going all out for Branthwaite, who does play a left centre back, because who's to say Botman comes back being the Botman that we've seen? You know, for those of a certain age, we've all seen what happened to probably the best centre half we've all seen in our own lives is Jonathan Woodgate. You know, after his injury, he never ever got back to those heights. So I don't think we're going to be too reliant on it. We have to then start playing for the here and now and hit the ground running at the start of the summer. And if it means someone like Botman is not able to walk straight back in the team and has to force his way into the team, then I'll be in a better position. So for me, it depends on what sponsorships they get in, what money they've got. We'll use the phrase wiggle room, what there is, but it's quite clear that centre half and the midfield and forward. And then we start saying we need a keeper, but do we need a keeper? We need a right winger, yeah. So we'll have to box very clever with what we're doing. But yes, the answer to the question is we need at least one centre half, and I'd rather buy one top quality centre half than 2 decent centre halves.
Okay, let's get to the other question from John. Afternoon, everyone. Does Eddie need to be more flexible to take us to the next level? We won yesterday because injuries forced substitutions, which improved things massively. Had it not been for the injuries, we probably wouldn't have won, and it really should be time now for Lewis Hall. But would anyone be surprised if he didn't start on Tuesday? I mean, Lewis Hall's not put a foot wrong when he's come on. Probably one game I can think of where we could probably be slightly critical of him, but other than that, he comes in and he's done a great job. So, would you like to see Hall start on Tuesday night, Mitch? Give him a chance, because the games he has started have been difficult games, shall we say? Dortmund, Man City.
Yeah, I'd be disappointed if he doesn't. You know, what else can the lad do? I thought he was fantastic when he came on. He had urgency, he had drive, he had pace, he showed a keenness to get on with the game and interact with the players, and he didn't look defensively frail at all. So, yeah, I don't see what else the lad can do. If he doesn't get a start after that, even he must be sitting wondering, well, what the hell else can I do?
Thoughts, Stu? Lewis Hall, Tuesday night, would you put him in?
Well, the whole idea of it is you get your chance, you grab it with both hands, and then you keep the shirt. That's what Eddie Howe's mentioned in nigh on every press conference he said. And the guy's earned his right to have it. So, yeah, I think he'll be disappointed. And what you can't have is someone who's come off. It must be such a high for him because he knows he's played well. But what we don't know and what they do know is he capable of sustaining that for 90 minutes? So there is that as well. You've also got Matty Targets hanging around in the background as well. But I would be surprised if Lewis Hall doesn't start. He's earned it. He deserves it. Same with Barnes. But are they both capable of giving 90? Well, realistically now it's over 100 minutes, isn't it? So that's where the substitutes, where we are a bit bereft at the moment, will come into play. But for all this, like, if it wasn't for the injuries, for the substitutions, we wouldn't have won the game, blah, blah, blah. We were winning the game before the injuries. You know what I mean? So what's the difference? We were 1-0 up and quite comfortable with it until Lascelles got injured. So I don't see why people still have to try and find a bad point where there's so many good things that happened yesterday. I agree. Some happened by chance, some happened by accident. But you know what? We all watch Eddie Howe's press conferences every week, and he's maintained. He's never once started crying on about, oh, woe is me. He's trying to be positive all the time, and that obviously is fed into the players, where they know how good they are. They did it last season, and for whatever reasons, things haven't worked our way this season. Yet he still managed to keep the mindset in a position of use are good players. And that's what to me yesterday it showed. Here's your chance, Elliot Anderson, who I thought took his chance fantastically well. So did Lewis Hall. So did Harvey Barnes. So we're not as bad as what we've been led to believe or we start listening to or reading. We have a very high-end, top-of-the-table squad. And when you get injuries, that's when the squad show how good they are. And yesterday, they showed how good they were because we had a strong bench. We haven't had a bench as strong as that for a long, long time. And I'll reiterate what I said earlier. My only concern about not getting European football is if Isak gets injured because there's no one to replace him at this stage. And I know I put in our little group yesterday, I had the misfortune of having Gorilla Gloves and Andy Gray when the teams were announced. And I know he just says it for effect and he says it for attention, but Richard Keys is like, oh, Newcastle are going to struggle. I can't see them getting Europe because they don't have Callum Wilson. To me, he's a far better player than Alexander Isak. Well, I'm sorry, as good as Wilson is, Isak is a natural finisher with both feet. And the composure, the skill set he's got, he's also now got, when he first came, he had the air of a bit of a Jack of the Lad about him, didn't he? But he's now willing to knuckle down, and you could see him chasing back, dropping deep, wanting the ball, passing the ball. He's not, if you watched Haaland today before we come on, he just stood there, didn't he, waiting for the ball to be given to him, for him to do his bit. So we've got everyone pulling in the same direction, and sometimes when things are against you, this is, what did I say, in the face of adversity, strength comes from it. And perversely, those injuries yesterday could be the turning point of our season because we are due a run of good luck. We are due some good fortune because we've had the bad fortune in bucket loads. So, yes, Lewis Hall should start. Of course he should start. He deserves it. as does Elliot Anderson. But you've got to look at the balance of the squad. But the way they finished yesterday, was it Eddie Howe that said it? It was a crazy finish to the game. But when you're 3-1 down, crazy suits you. So I don't like saying this because for me, the players should do it, but the fans are going to have a big, big part to play on Tuesday. They've got to be right behind, and I'm sure everyone will be. They've got to be right behind the team. And if there's a mistake made, it'll be an honest mistake. No one's going to mess up on purpose. And what Saturday showed was even when it looks like we're beat, we're not. We're not beat until it's finished. And if the players have got that attitude, we as fans can have that attitude. And I'm telling you now, we'll get European football as long as Isaac stays fit.
18 goals, not to be sniffed at. I know he's a penalty taker, but he's a cool, calm, and collected penalty taker. 2 yesterday, didn't look in any doubt. Always confident when he steps up to take them. I've got to be honest. A couple of other questions here. Krista Johnson, good evening, says, "Yes, Stu. What do you think of Dubravka? He is really a problem. He is really poor. A problem. What are your thoughts, lads?" Stu, come to you first. It was directed towards you. I mean, Dubravka, he's conceded a hell of a lot of goals since he came in. Is it simply down to him though? I would have said it's more collective effort than the players in front of him. But I think we've discussed it on the show before. It's sometimes difficult for teams to get used to a goalkeeper when they've been used to another one in front of them for so long. Yeah, well, he is. It's not solely down to him, but he's part of the problem because you have him and 4 defenders in front of them, and when they get a clean sheet, collectively they get praise. So when they concede as many goals, collectively they should get the blame. And we've run through it in the past where the defence starts up front, etc., etc., etc. But Dubravka, to me, he's always had lucky band arms or wrists anyway, and a stronger set of wrists or one wrist anyway would have stopped that second goal. And he was falling back and the ball's hitting his hand and going in anyway. But he is our goalkeeper and he is what we've got at the moment. Karius I've never had a problem with. I think we've waxed lyrical about him in the games that he's played. He's never put a foot wrong or a glove wrong. But you can see his head's not in it. His missus wants him out the way and she wants him in Italy. And if she was my missus and says to me, "I want you out of Mongolia next week," that's where I would go. So you've got to think Dubravka is what we've got, and he is an international goalkeeper. But over the next few weeks, Nick Pope will be back. There's a chance we'll get Joe Linton back. There's a chance Tino Livramento will be back. And we'll get stronger again. We've got these next 2 games, Everton and Fulham. If we can get through those and get 6 points, we'll have more people come back. Fingers crossed, no more injuries. And that sets us up then with 7 games to go with a stronger squad, probably the strongest squad we've had all season. And you've got like the Villas and West Hams, they've all got European football to contend with. Man United have got cup games to contend with. And Wolves, we know are better than. Brighton, they've still got Europe, but not for much longer. We know we're better than them. And who's the last team? Chelsea, they've got themselves to contend with, and we're now in a position where going into Saturday, we're only a point ahead of them, and they had a game in hand. But now we're 3 points ahead of them, and 12 goals better off, or 10 goals better off. So there is so much to be upbeat about. We have to get through this next 2 games. If we can get 6 points from them, you'll see how the whole landscape changes and the mindset of everyone changes. But the players will as well. It doesn't matter if you carry an injury. If you're playing in November when it's windy, or January when it's cold, or February when it's heavy pitches, and you're carrying an injury, it becomes a problem and it shows in your play. But when you're playing, your team is winning, and you're carrying an injury, it doesn't show. And even in Steve Bruce's day, and before that, Rafa's, we finished the season strong. So why shouldn't we this season? We've got a better squad then than we had now than we had then. So why shouldn't we finish the season strong? The fixtures we've got are against teams who have got very little to play for the majority of them. And what would you say, Steve, was our toughest game we've got left? Tottenham at home? Tottenham at home, Manchester United away is still a tough game. You know, I know they're not the Manchester United of 15 years ago, but I still think Manchester United away is tough. Depends when we play them, of course, but you know, I've watched them most of the season. And we're
haven't scored against us in 4 games.
We're beating them twice. We're beating them twice.
Well, they haven't scored. I think we've beaten them 3 times, have we not? We beat them at the end of last season.
I was talking about the season, yeah.
So they haven't scored against us since the cup final. That's the last time they scored against us. But by the time we play them, it looks like that's going to be later in the season anyway. We could be in a position where they've got nothing to play for because they know they're not going to get 4th. They'll have 5th or 6th wrapped up. They'll have nothing much, probably 6th. We could be playing them for 6th place. That's how it could be by the time it comes around to playing them. So Tottenham is probably our biggest thing. And it depends what Tottenham turns up. Is it the Tottenham that wins 4-0 at Villa or the Tottenham gets beat 3-0 at Fulham? So we show what we can do with the Tottenham. And maybe I'm being over positive on the back of a result that didn't look likely for the majority of the game yesterday. But I'm a great believer in confidence. In confidence breeds success. And I don't see a reason why we can't not just beat Tottenham, actually dismantle them, because they're a confidence team. And if we get a goal or 2 up, we've seen what they did last season. I know it's a different manager, blah, blah, blah. It's majority the same set of players. They've lost Kane, but they put in Maddison. So I could see us beating Tottenham. I wouldn't say comfortably because Newcastle, it's not often that you can be comfortable with Newcastle, especially this season. But I can see us beating Tottenham. It'll be a stupid game like Palace away where we might slip up. But I'll reiterate, get past these 2 games, get 6 points from these 2 games. That's 3 on the bounce. And you watch how we finish this season. And do you know what? After everything that's happened, the cheating that went on in PSG, the blip that's Trippier did, because he'll be back soon enough as well. The blip that Trippier did against Chelsea away, it's been so much of a season where it'll be very easy to just say, oh, coulda, shoulda, woulda. And if it wasn't for this, it wasn't for that, yet they're still going. And for that, they deserve respect. And for that, hopefully they get the just rewards. So where we're really going to get beat? Of course, 9 games, we're like we are. Stats tell you we'll get beat. But we're nobody's mugs. You just watch, Steve. Come on Tuesday, come on Saturday, and then we go into Tottenham, and all of a sudden we're sitting there 7th, comfortably 7th. And then we're talking about chasing Man United down. That's the position that we'll be come this time next week.
Dubravka getting a bit of stick still. Stu's on very positive vibe tonight. But yeah, Dubravka, just people saying he's the issue. What's your thoughts on that, Mitch?
Well, the stats certainly suggest since Pope has gone out, our defence has suffered, and we've got fewer points. I think looking at the goals yesterday, I think Pope would have handled the first perhaps a little differently, whether it would have still landed in a goal, and that's up for debate. But I think Dubravka looked indecisive. The second goal, since he's come back from Man U, he looks like he's had crisp packet hands and macaroni wrists. And he could have done better. Certainly, get your hand on that, and then somebody with a stronger wrist is going to put it around the post. The third goal, well, he was badly exposed. I don't know if he could have done much different there for me. But certainly we see him weaker in defence without Pope there. And Dubravka's looked great in patches, but he's looked awful in other patches too. And that can't just be a defence getting used to having him there again. How much of it is his confidence is all over the place? I don't know. Do we go to Karius? Well, I think we tried that. And I think Dubravka is it. We've got to work with that at the end of the season and get behind him. But I do think Pope would have handled the situations yesterday, certainly two of them, very differently. And I think one of the things we need to look at is there a young keeper out there who will push Pope going forward? That we're going to add to our squad. That'll be keen and hungry. We want to learn, and it'll remind Pope that he's got to remain on top of his game, because otherwise he could be cycled out. But that's looking ahead. What we've got to deal with now is Dubravka's one number one, whether we like it or not. Get behind him, support him as much as we can. But we need to see more of certain things out of him, less of others. In particular, the uncertainty. That's the thing that scares me, is there's times he looks very uncertain coming out. He looks very uncertain coming for crosses. He does the will I won't I dance. That cannot be great for the centre-backs. I would far rather have a keeper that came and clattered everything and anyone in front of him, ours or theirs, just to get something on the ball or to collect the ball. So, it's frustrating, because I think we've seen how valuable Pope is to our back four, not just as a goalkeeper.
Okay, probably get through a couple of other questions before we finish tonight. Kenny says, conspiracy here. Did Gordon take a stupid yellow, Mitch, to avoid Everton?
Nah. I think, you know what? I think on another day, I've got a feeling that referee forgot he'd booked Gordon earlier.
Yeah, he got grassed up though, didn't he? One of the West Ham players pointed out.
The West Ham players wanted it, and I think on another day it wouldn't have happened. I think that referee yesterday was genuinely poor in many different ways, both ways. So for me, I think, you know, I don't think there's any conspiracy there. In fact, everybody seemed gobsmacked that it actually happened. No, I don't see a conspiracy there. I just see a footwit of a referee.
Stu, yeah, I mean, I think you're right. He did get grassed up. I don't think the ref would have booked him otherwise.
No, it was one of those. It was on impulse, wasn't it? He didn't boot the ball away. He just flicked it away, and the letter of the law says he takes a yellow card. But strangely, it might work in our favour, because he then stays on 8 instead of being on 9.
Yes.
To miss the 2-game ban. So let's get past Everton, and then there's only 2 more games after that. You'd have to get booked in both the games thereafter to get another suspension. And the way he's conducted himself, as Bruno has, to avoid the booking and do everything that they should for the team, it's actually been a smart move when unintentionally. And quite clearly he didn't do it to get booked, to get sent off, because if anything, from the grief he got when he left Everton, he would have loved to be in a roaring St James's Park under the lights and put them to the sword. So I think he'd be more disappointed than anyone else in the stadium that once he realised he was missing the Everton game. But it is what it is. The lad needs a rest, so he's deserved it. Make sure we get the 3 points from him and get him back for Saturday.
Okay, Daniel, good evening, says, do you think Barnes and Gordon will play opposite wings when everyone's fit? God, when will that be, Daniel? How much do you lose from Gordon switching sides, and does Barnes' goals make up for it? Great question. I often thought that might be the case at some point, you know, but we've never had an availability of squad to be able to do that. Barnes has been out for the best part of the season. Gordon then's been missing at times. You know, it's. But if in an ideal world we had players fit, do you think that would be a consideration, Mitch? It's
the 2027 FA Cup final, and Barnes and Gordon are finally playing on opposite wings. It's an option. Barnes has an opportunity on Tuesday to lay down a marker and say, you saw what I did at the weekend. You've seen what I've done tonight. Droppers. Dare you. And if that's the case, Gordon has to be in the side. But equally, Gordon can play both sides comfortably. That's not a problem. That's a nice problem. That's the kind of problems managers want. A dearth an excess, a surfeit of talent in certain positions to be able to hurt teams in different ways. And we've not had the luxury of that all season. It's one of the things that injuries has contributed to generally. An inability to have options and game changers and different things to change a game up. That might bring with 3 points instead of 1, for example. It certainly is an option. I could also see potentially Gordon playing in the middle behind Isaac and allow them two to swap. If you look at what Isaac does when he drops deep and the ability he had, say, for Barnes' first score.
Yeah.
When Isaac drops deep, that run from Barnes was excellent. But the pass from Isaac was a beaut. Now, can you imagine a front three or a three behind Isaac when Isaac drops off and he's got 3 Barnes, Gordon, Murphy, for example, with the movement those 3 have and the ability those 3 have to do things inside and outside of the box. And Isaac drops deep to play one of them in. It genuinely, there's a number of things we could do. And that's a wonderful problem, and I think Eddie Howe would love it. Because at the minute, he's saying to defenders, can you run? Can you stand? Do you have 2 feet? Are you still in possession of all of your bodily faculties? Because you might get a game on the weekend. You know, this is what we've been fighting all season. Would be a wonderful, wonderful problem to have.
Would you play both of them, either wing, Stu?
This is where it goes back to injuries. I believe because of the injuries that we've got, I think they will play them both, either wing, because they can swap over as well. They can both kick with either foot and then they can swap over. I've not had much joy there. I think the reason, well, not just because of the injuries, the reason that Gordon has been on the left, he prefers to cut in, but he's been playing on the left predominantly because we had no one else to play there, but also because his willingness to come back and track and cover for the unnatural left back that we've been playing most of the season, where Barnes won't do those yards. Barnes has proved, from what we've seen of him at Newcastle, we know Leicester he's got a better track record, but what we've seen at Newcastle, he's been an impact sub, running against tired defences and being able to use both feet. So if his fitness allows him to run full game, what do we want out of Barnes? We want him to be able to impact the game in the offensive side in the final third, not tracking back because we've got a left back who's a centre half who is lacking confidence because his own fans are criticising him. But if you've got someone like Hall playing left back, or dare I say it next season, shall I say Kieran Tierney? No, I'll leave it for this week. You have a left back who is actually a left back and is able to get up and down the touchline in the John Beresford style, then Barnes is suited for that, especially for the home games, where you could play him there, you could have Gordon on the right, Isaac in the middle, they can interchange, especially the wingers that can cross over. And why I said at the start of this conversation was injuries have forced the hand, and it might actually just be something that's, as I said, sometimes you deserve some good luck. And out of what's happened, if that ends up being our front 3, that's, for me, that's definitely good enough to get us into Europe. So Hall stays fit. Byrne, to me, started the game well yesterday. I was very, very worried, and I'm sure a lot of people were apprehensive of against Jared Bourne because he is lightning as well, isn't he? But he acquitted himself well. But he showed his natural position was left-sided centre-half yesterday. And it's quite clear he's going to be starting there on Wednesday, so Hall has to start on... Tuesday, so Hall has to start on Tuesday. Give Barnes a start, let them interact, and have Anderson on the left side there. Willock, he can then be the impact sub instead of Harvey Barnes, because Willock at the moment isn't up to speed yet, and maybe taking him out the firing line for the full 90 minutes might do him the world of good as well. What you don't need is players thinking that they're going to get a game, however they play. So something like that might shake him up a bit, and then play Anderson there with Bonds on the left. How they finished? Anderson, Bonds, and Young Hall. That's to me that would be a strong enough, especially against an Everton team that are really, really struggling for confidence and results. It would be nice to battle them anytime, but Tuesday, that would make it even sweeter. And these three that came on with a point to prove, there you proved your point, lads. Now is a chance to cement it, and let's see what they do again. Give them the opportunity.
Yeah, okay. Barry, Stu's in Newcastle that weekend, but unfortunately he's at a wedding. I'm not sure whether Mitch is coming over yet, to be confirmed, but I'm sure I'll
definitely be over. I'll be at the same wedding, but I'm going to see if I can slip away to join everybody in the evening.
Okay, good stuff. Kenny, thank you very much, mate, for becoming a member. I am going to be doing members-only chats once a week, so if you want to jump on, it'll be Wednesday night after the Fans Forum. Slight change around this week with a bank holiday. No live show tomorrow. Nobby Solano tomorrow, parts 1 and part 2, 6 o'clock and 7:15. Tuesday will be Talk of the Tune, as usual, at 2:45 in the afternoon. Wednesday it will be the Fans Forum. Supermat and Gibbo on Thursday, as usual time, and the Amigos at the usual time on Friday. So, obviously, we've got Everton on Tuesday night, so there wouldn't have been a live show on Tuesday night. Anyway, got one or two more questions. How do you feel about Ivan Toney next season, lads? I think we've talked about Ivan Toney a few times, Mitch, so don't have to dwell on this one too much, I don't think. But yeah, I mean, he's moving, but I can imagine him. I can imagine him going to Arsenal, Spurs, or Liverpool. Take your pick.
Not for me. To hear someone who's got himself banned as a Brentford fan, then every interview he's given since about Christmas has been about how he wants to go to Arsenal, Liverpool, or Real Madrid. That's infuriating. And he's being treated by the press like he's some sort of returning hero. Not for me at all. Nah.
Stu, same.
Yeah, definitely. As Mitch said there, he's come back as a returning hero, but Tonali's still getting vilified for having less bets over a shorter period of time. So it's Tonali. Well, I'm not going to go down the news side and then go back to Toney. Toney's quite clearly playing for a move away. He's never hid from the facts, so you can call it honest. But for me, he's a bad apple, and I don't think he would suit our style of play anyway. So no, and he'll probably be overpriced because he's English. So no need to have him. So if we're looking at it, I think our main signing is next year. Shall I say what I said to you before, Mitch?
Aye.
I got word, I've been pushing for Paul Mitchell to be the preferred choice for director of football.
Yeah.
I was informed today that someone with the same initials will be visiting this week, and that'll be Paolo Maldini. So for me, that's more of a PIF style signing, a big name which could attract big players, and that could give us if he is announced as a new director of football, that for me would be a big boost to us as supporters and as a club to show you the direction and the support that the owners are giving us. This is them putting their line in the sand and we mean business. But I still think Paul Mitchell is a sensible choice. But someone like Maldini, if you look at how much respect he's got worldwide, if your manager's not going to attract the same players as someone like Jose Mourinho would, get your director of football to do it. Because if Maldini comes knocking, any player worth the salt will want to listen. Doesn't mean they'll sign, but they'll want to listen. So that could be something that's might be announced, but again, it's all tied up with the Ashworth saga, and they'll sit that out until they get what they want. Because you know what, we can afford to.
Okay, and as we've mentioned before, a new director of football coming in may want a new manager. You never know. It could be bad news for the manager we've got there at the moment, but you never know. We'll wait and see. A couple of financial ones came in earlier on. Derek said, guys, I've asked this question before. Could Man City and Newcastle work together to get around sponsorship, possibly UAE sponsors for us and Saudi for City, which is a great question. And Anthony Nichols says, any news on commercial deals? Reading, we are right on the edge for FFP PSR. So, Mitch, thoughts on those two questions?
Cross-country commercial deals, well, it's kind of already happening with Noon. I just don't trust anybody else involved in the process. I'd rather just let PIF get on and do their thing and not rely on anybody from another country who may pull the rug at any moment because it suits them rather than us. With regard to commercial deals, yes, I'm sure there's plenty in the pipeline and more to come. They are more difficult to do than people realise. And I think there's definitely a lot coming online ahead of time for next year's FFP or PSR, however you want to put it. Let's just wait and see what's announced.
Sure.
It'd be too easy, wouldn't it? It's something we discussed shortly after the takeover. That if we call the Middle East the big sandpit, the Saudis are the biggest boys in the south pit, and a lot of people want to please them, to appease them, etc. But imagine we're doing everything squeaky clean, and all of a sudden we get big sponsorships from the UAE, and then strangely Man City gets sponsorships from Saudi. It would make a mockery of all the hard work we've done. There's enough people wanting to sponsor Newcastle United, and it's just whether they're allowed to. And without opening a bigger conversation, I still go back to saying, how can the Premier League decide what is a worthy sponsorship, because they don't know the impact it has in this region. Both of us live here, so we understand what it means to be affiliated, associated, in partnership with the biggest ones, and the kudos that gives you. But I can't see UAE main sponsor, and I can't see the Saudi sponsoring. I'm going to say this wrong. They wouldn't dare sponsor a team apart from Newcastle. It's just not the done thing. It's not the way custom's done here. In Saudi, they know Newcastle's their team in the Premier League. So if they get an opportunity, they'll want to sponsor Newcastle. And it's something that the very, very clever boys and girls at PIF understand and know. And I'm expecting a big summer come sponsorships, and finishing in Europe will be very, very important to us, because a lot of it becomes justified from there.
Okay. Another question we got earlier on, Calvin Phillips. Doug Hall says, question for the lads. Do you all think whoever wanted Calvin Phillips in January should take a back seat in future signings? We had one or two other people.
I wanted him.
Do you think that we dodged a potential bullet there? Well, his performance yesterday, Mitch, again, I mean, I've watched him a few times. I do think we dodged a major bullet there.
Mate, like I said, which Calvin Phillips are we getting? Are we getting the Leeds United Calvin Phillips that I saw plenty of with the Leeds lads and Goodfellas, and Stu did too, over a couple of seasons. And genuinely, there was a point in time where he was at Leeds as the best box-to-box midfielder in the country, bar none. He won them games on his own. Although we're getting the Calvin Phillips at Man City, who was more worried about trying to get on the cover of fashion magazines and generally fucking about whilst trying to have a professional football career. The one who got criticised by Pep for coming back from England due to be massively overweight. And yes, he subsequently apologised and retracted that, but sorry, the damage is done. It was said, and it was said because it was meant. It's quite clear since he's gone to West Ham, he's been almost like a pariah. You know, he's been like a real Jonah for them. The minute they brought him on, give away a penalty. And I think it's him that very idly lets Barnes dance past them for the winner.
What was that?
You know, again, you look at body language, you look at urgency, you look at interest. And while Barnes has hunger, he wants to win the game. Calvin Phillips just looks like he's there for the ride. What Barnes did was great. It was a super move to let the ball across his body and then take it on. But I do think a more switched on central midfielder would have maybe tried to close him down harder, because Phillips didn't look like he did anything. Just let him go. And yet Daniel's right there at the end, seeing him flipping fans off. This is where we as football fans get a little bit precious. We'll have a go and call people, and then when somebody gives it something back, everybody gets a bit like, oh, look what he did. The people are only human at the end, and I like a little bit of response and a little bit of back and forth. But certainly, it's not terribly professional to react like that, and probably shows the position he's in personally, mentally, and other things. But again, the penalty he gave away against Gordon was just a rash swipe. That wasn't the move of somebody with his head switched on in the box. That was somebody who was just desperate to get rid of the ball. It was like a hot potato. And so dodged the bullet. Absolutely, I was all for signing him. But what we needed to know was it the Leeds Calvin Phillips we were going to get? And I think what West Ham have got is Mr. Bump. You know, he's just an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah, I remember you saying that time and time again. It depends which one we'll get. Stu, we definitely, we definitely did avoid a major error there.
Yeah, well, I've said repeatedly, sales and sport are very much psychology. And did Calvin Phillips want to go to West Ham? No, he didn't. But when it was the only offer that was going to be accepted, and it was either you rot in our reserves and get maybe 10 minutes once a month, you go there. But you can go somewhere where you don't want to go, and he's given the impression that he's fell out of love with football, isn't it? You know, and without getting into mental health and stuff like that, he's like he couldn't care. He's made his money, and if West Ham don't sign him, which is quite clear they're not going to, and man, he'll just sit in his contract. He wanted to come to Newcastle. I think we've all been told of many different people he wanted to come. I think we would have seen a different Calvin Phillips. He would have been back up north, and I wouldn't be surprised if Leeds get promoted. He goes back there, and you'll see a rejuvenated Calvin Phillips. You don't become a bad player overnight, but you can pack in with your attitude overnight. And to me, he's just like, I'm here because they've paid the money. His first game, he got sent off. He's had a couple of things go against him. I think he's realised he's had his nose pushed out the England squad. So if we're trying to look through Calvin Phillips' eyes, what's he really got to do? And then he's just getting nothing but dog's abuse. He's flipped the finger to someone who's given him abuse. They start crying. Well, don't give abuse then. If you can't give it, don't take it. If you can't take it, don't give it. And yes, it's unprofessional. He's a sportsman. He's on X amount a week. Calvin Phillips, I think, had we signed him, he would have done the same job as Henderson would have done for us. He would have rested Longstaff. He would have rested Miley. He would have rested Joe Linton. So we wouldn't have had as many injuries. The minutes would have been shared around, and we could have been talking about a late push for a Champions League place, let alone just trying to get into Europe. That's the difference he could have made for us. But again, that's maybe me basing it on the Calvin Phillips that we watched in Goodfellas, dominating box-to-box games for Leeds. But that player is still there. Just whether his heart's there, his desire's there, it's quite clear he didn't want to go to West Ham. And West Ham gave the money. Man City took said this is what we're paying. We couldn't or wouldn't pay the money. And he's ended up somewhere he didn't want to be. And you can see he's not motivated. And before we finish, when I was watching the game with Mrs. yesterday, she says, please tell Steve, so I'll do it publicly. She found two lookalikes yesterday, Steve. Souček, when he celebrated, she said, looked like Dan Burn.
Right.
And then there was a close-up of an angry David Moyes, and she says that's E.T. So someone far cleverer than me with the computer stuff, if they can put that in for you for Friday's show, you'll see if she's got a point.
Spot on. Great stuff. As always, thanks to Stu and Mitch for giving up the time on a Sunday. Thanks to the moderators and everybody in the chat. Over 450 watching tonight on a Easter Sunday. Not to be shirked at, we'll never take it for granted. Thanks very much. Don't forget, Nobby Solano, parts 1 and 2, 6 and 7:15 tomorrow. Then I'm back live Tuesday afternoon, 2:45. We'll talk to the tune. Wednesday night will be the fans forum, looking back on this weekend's game and Tuesday night's game. Thursday night, Superman and Gibbo. Friday night, the Three Amigos. Okay, take care, lads. See you later.
Happy Easter, everyone. Cheers.